So at its core, I think the entire book is a system for getting things out of your brain and stored somewhere in a way that lets you actually execute on them. I think that's super important. I really love the Mind Like Water. For anybody who's followed me, I really like Eve Rodsky's Fair Play. Talks about this from the chores standpoint. She's a lawyer. She talks about we've done a good job helping women get into the workplace, not as good of a job helping men help out around the house where you don't have the mental load. And it talks about like you assign chores, you meet between the spouses to talk about like betterment of the chores, and really it gets it out of your brain. This is that same concept, like that Mind Like Water, that flow state. Like I cannot stress how liberating it is when everything is not stored in your brain, but it's stored in a way where you trust that you know you're going to get to it when you need to get to it. And so he talks about a 5-step process. So step 1, capture everything in your brain, do the dump. And do the dump, that didn't sound right. Do the brain dump. But the thing that I love is these days, like with AI, you could do this dump. You could go on ChatGPT and just put it in voice mode while you're going for a walk, while you're driving to the office, and just brain dump everything, have it ask you follow-up questions to flush it out, and just get everything in one place. Like that's the biggest thing. Then 2, it's clarify what the thing really is. Is this actionable? Is it something I can handle now? He has the 2-minute rule, which I really like. If you can do it in 2 minutes, just do it. Don't delegate it. Like I have stopped delegating a lot of easy calendaring to my EA just because like I can do it in less than 2 minutes. Why? It's going to take me almost as long to send her an email to do it. So let's just get it done. The other thing I like is sometimes things are not actionable in a situation where you can't control it. So it's the tickler system. I don't love the 43 folders idea because it's 2026, but like I will put things on my calendar. Hey, somebody told me that like there's this air show in San Antonio that's phenomenal. So I have on my calendar 3 months before to like find out what day it is, to put that on the calendar, decide if we're going to go. Like it's out of my brain. And when it's actionable, when the time is booked, I know how to get on it. One of the great examples is we get caught up in this concept of like work on taxes. That's not really helpful. What's helpful is email your CPA for your checklist. Email them for a list of what you sent in last year. Make sure you can knock things off the list. Like that's the action. Then he organizes it. So he's got his next actions, his projects, his waiting for, the calendar, and then the someday maybe list. Then he talks about reflecting. So doing a weekly review, which we'll talk more about here. And then the 5th being engage. So when, figure out what you're going to do, put it on the calendar, put it on the list, and actually execute on it. And I think we get so caught up in this weird, like, there are a million things I could be doing, but if we actually focus on how much time do I really have, what am I going to work on, it is better to make full progress on 5 things than it is to make sort of progress on 50. Cool. So you mentioned, Adam, from having read most of the book, you have put together a system.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what it is.
Yeah, so I'll pull it up. So I had an open house yesterday, and then the down moments I kind of broke it down. So I have the order of operations, so like how the things flow in. I have the in folder. I have my stuff that I dumped everything in, and then from there I have several categories: to do immediately or today, and then there's the stuff to always work on, that kind of like the things that are tickling in the background, like, learn French, that kind of stuff. And then there's once I've deleted something off the to-do list, I then move it to a moved and completed stuff, potentially delete, because I've been known to preemptively delete something off my list. So like I have like just to get it off of my done list, I have it in another separate place. Stuff on the back burner. And then just kind of old notes I had for because what I had was one big to-do list that had everything on it that I would put notes from phone calls, follow-up appointments, calendar date stuff, just a bunch of garbage. And it just was, my brain was melting because I was just always looking at this massive to-do list.
Well, it becomes overwhelming.
Yes. And no matter how I delineated it, like it wasn't just like, all the way down with everything intermixed. It was still delineated, but it wasn't like officially separated. So I don't know if I could share.
Yeah. So on the bottom, third from the left, it's a little laptop with the arrow up on the screen. That'll let you share.
Select the screen. Oh, here you go. Yeah, okay. So no allow. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the one. So when I open it up, it's on one side of my screen, and this is the, like I said, the stuff, the things where things get moved on or I have to do later. And then the other one was my the input one, the input side of things. That's this part, which is, so this is the order of operations. And then what I did was I have my current clients, the ones that are like right up and coming, like I know we're going to be listing in a month, or, a week or whatever, like we're up and coming. And this is my stuff dump, and then my to do immediately. And then, yeah, from my stuff, I then separated, back burner or whatever. And it, like, just seeing this morning that my to do list, it grew today, but like, I know exactly when this is done, where to move it. And it, like, this morning when I went into it, I had like 3 items to do. I know obviously when you start working, things start building up and you start thinking of more things. But like, I was like, well, I have to do like 3 or 4 things this morning. Like, that was just such a weight off of me. It was so cool to see that.
Well, I thought that was the interesting thing is, I think the example he uses in the book, or at least one of them, is like, hey, plan next conference. And that sounds ridiculous. But then when you break it down to like, all right, well, what's the first step of planning the next year's conference? Locking in the date. Okay, so how do we lock in the date? We get a venue and we commit to it. Okay, do we like last year's venue? No. Okay, what do we like about it? Now let's find a new venue that meets the new things. Like, just those little things. You end up taking one project and breaking it up into, 50 smaller tasks, but then you can actually do those tasks. You can see the progress. You can get the ball rolling down the hill.
Yeah. And what I used to do with that, because I did that naturally, even before reading the book. I had color code with like, green was like an immediate highlighted, like I have to do this ASAP. And then once it was finished, I highlighted it in yellow. So like in that regard, plan next year's conference with all those tasks, I would have highlighted them each in yellow, but now I eliminate that off of my to-do list, which is just, for me, it's like, oh, there's just so less to look at. Even though it's color coded, still not looking at all of these past things I've already done.
Yeah. Well, and then like for me, a lot of it is, what am I doing versus what is my executive assistant doing versus what is my marketing person doing? And so like having our tasks broken up in, for us, a case management system or a CRM becomes so nice, because now I don't have to email someone, hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do that? Hey, there's this. So like, we can look at it. It's really interesting to see it become a system among multiple people executing on the same overarching project.
My book, Love Your Law Firm, takes my journey and gives you the practical steps that I took, as well as some things that I did to avoid. Now in the second edition, though, we incorporate some stories from a bunch of my coaching clients, so you have a more well-rounded understanding of what it will take to run a great law firm. That being said, because I'm a lawyer and we wrote this for lawyers, I was told I have to provide a warning for the book. Reading this book could cause excessive delegation and might ultimately end up with you enjoying running your own law firm. I hope you'll check it out in the link below.
Yeah. I could see as soon as you started talking about, the team, why this system would be instrumental or something like it into figuring out with the team mentality. For me, it's just basically me, and then my wife is cleaning up my messes.
Well, it's the thing he talks about is like, you have to have 100% faith in your system, right? So it's either I'm 100% certain everything's on this brain dump sheet. I'm 100% certain the reminders are going to come back. For me, it's my calendar. Like, for me, everything is living off my calendar. What I need to do is put on the calendar. We're going through, we're actually executing on it. Like, to the extent that flat out, I know my wife told me 15 times we were going on a spring break trip. I know she told me the dates, but when there was an opportunity to go to a Spurs game on Friday the 6th or whatever that day was, I looked at my calendar. There was nothing on it. I booked the tickets. Come to find out, we will be in Utah for those days. So, I gave the tickets to somebody else. But it's like me having 100% faith in my calendar, knowing it doesn't say that. So I actually ended up talking to my EA, because we calendar all of my son's school days but we were calendaring spring break Monday to Friday. And I was like, hey, do me a favor, calendar it from when he's done to when he's back. And then that would be an extra check on us being out or gone.
Yeah.
Just little things like that to get back to having 100% faith in the system is so rewarding versus 99% faith.
So then what was on this read through? What was your biggest takeaway from this?
The team. It was every other time I read it, it was like me building a system that made sense for me. And this read through was building a system that makes sense for a whole team. And like, I love my wife. She is fantastic. She does not calendar things like I do. And so flat out, I meet with my EA on Monday and I was like, hey, you're going to send an email to my wife every single Monday. You can automate it to go out. You can send it after a meeting, whatever. That's like, do you need me to calendar anything? Is there anything that got booked? So like my kid's birthday party is not on our family shared calendar. It is now. I'm doing the Alamo half marathon on Sunday. That was not on the calendar for a specific time. We pulled the time. We have to get the race packets. We pulled the race packet pickup, put that on the calendar, like just flushing those things out. That was the biggest thing. Cause I know like I can trust my team to either have it done or have taken the steps to follow up, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, versus my wife just putting stuff on the family calendar does not happen. And I need to be okay with that at the point that I could still 100% trust my calendar.
Yeah. When you talk to other businesses, how many of them are lacking in a system like this to just get the stuff out of their head onto a page that they can like actually do things to?
It's a great question. Most of the clients coming to me don't have a problem getting the stuff down onto a list. Most of my potential clients come to me with too long of a to-do list. The thing where we tweak it is turning it into the calendar, is finding the time to actually do it. Because it's one thing to learn French. For me, it's learn Spanish, phenomenal. But until I have a recurring task on my calendar to do 10 minutes of Duolingo, until I set aside the time, until I, hire a coach or a trainer who puts me through this stuff, it's not going to happen. And so it's not so much the collection of the list, it's the organization of it into the actionable next steps and then the time to do them. That becomes, I think, the biggest tweak, at least for, my potential clients or my new clients.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was interesting. He went through where do you personally leak the most mental energy now? Is it at work? Is it home? Is it health? Or is it relationships? And so I was thinking through that as a question, and I was like, it's definitely, it's not at home, but it's definitely the getting the rest of my family to calendar stuff. And it's funny because my child will be 8 next week. He knows when he's done with chocolate milk, when he's done with strawberries, when he's done with whatever, just tell Alexa, hey, add this to the shopping list. And he's really good about it. Like I will vet. Sometimes there will be 27 different snacks to buy and I won't buy those, but the core things, I'm like, okay, it's on the list. I know he's running low or running out. It's just very funny. What about for you? Where do you see the most leak of mental energy? Work, home, health, relationships?
Gotta be work. Yeah, I feel like because of the how our systems changed completely, because before it was Natalie was the day-to-day agent, taking care of the clients, the listening presentations. That was all her. I was a social butterfly. I'm aloof by nature. So just, go to this appointment, go to that appointment. It's just, and then fitting in work in between my social life. But now it's the other way around, that now I am the sole realtor basically. And like I said, made the joke about my wife cleaning up my messes and stuff. So she is, and now our son's 17 months old. So now he can be a little bit more independent and, we're comfortable with my mother-in-law watching him and stuff. So she is doing some behind the scenes, office stuff, paperwork and whatnot, where that was on me as well. But that the day-to-day grind stuff, that juggling in my head of figuring out what do I have to do next, it's not a strength of mine. That's her strength. Her weakness is when she has to go talk with people, it drains her. She likes to be able to control everything around her. So office work, she thrives on it. It energizes her and it drains me. So that's why for me, this whole last year has been such a shift for me, because I'm having to be the business where I was the marketer. I was the funnel for her to take the business off,
Well, and also like, look, I think realtors are the hardest working people because there's a billion realtors and it's so, who top of mind grinding, who do you know? But also your work is not really on your schedule. Excuse me. It's when is the buyer available to see the house? When is the seller available to have the house listed and the photos taken and all those things? And so like, I know for a lot of my lawyer clients, a handful of them that still have a small caseload, they basically don't schedule until after lunch. Like everything that has to happen, they're going to put there because they can't control their court obligations. And that's the way that they've been able to do it. And then not learn French, but the stuff like that, they'll drop in if court get canceled when there's openings in the mornings. But like, for a job like yours, I think it's a lot harder to use the calendar feature because you end up getting pulled away to so many other opportunities.
There's with that, the big top producing like mega agents. So there's one in our office. He has a team of like 40 agents, does GCI, gross commission, like multiple millions of dollars for his team and stuff. And when you talk to them about scheduling, they have no problem telling people no and walking away from business, where for me, like I feel bad. And that's the reason why we honestly don't see people as business. Those agents do, right? Like every person that they talk with is a potential transaction. So if they need to see a home on Monday morning, that transaction doesn't fit in their schedule. So they'll just say no. Well, for me, like, I'm like, I want to help her, she's a sweet old lady who wants to buy a home. Like, so it's those agents who are extremely like financially successful, they do treat the business more so like a business than, I don't know, like trying to help people. And like, people like us, it's like you said, we have to work around our clients' schedule. I'm fine. It is what it is. Like, that's the nature of it.
Yeah. Well, it becomes, because I'm like you from that standpoint, where I want to help this person. But the thing that was the easiest change for me to some extent was the recurring events instead of. So like, rather than me saying, hey, I can't commit to this client at this time, it's like, oh, but wait, I have a commitment to my 5 team members. I have a commitment to these 10 people for this meeting. So it's like, I am being more helpful by following the system because the other people committed to it. So like on my calendar, I use 2 colors. I use red and blue. One, they're brand colors. My red stuff cannot be moved. It's all the multiple person meetings. It's the client meetings. It's the internal meetings. My blue is the learn French, learn Spanish, review this document, flexible stuff. And so when somebody goes to book with me, moving the blue stuff is totally fine. No problem, but the red stuff cannot be moved. And so that gives us sort of enough structure to keep things going with enough flexibility to still help people. And again, obviously it's different because I would say there are very few business coaching emergencies. Obviously for real estate, there could be, if it's not an emergency, there's a time limit. It's one person, one house at some point.
Yeah. There are very few. I tell people this too, sellers and buyers, when we first start working with them, that especially now with my son. And it's funny too, because we tried to put those boundaries up before having our son, and people really didn't care. But now that we say we have a son, like, oh my goodness, protect your evenings. Like, people are so forgiving when you have a kid now. This was years ago. One of our clients actually grew up with my wife, next door neighbors. He knew it was our anniversary. We were out at the Pearl celebrating our anniversary, and he texted and was like, I know it's your anniversary. Make time for me. Ha ha ha. I'm going to call you in a little bit to talk about. I'm like what? And I know now, people of those mindsets, like I said, a kid is nice to be like, we have a son, and they're like, absolutely protect that time. But we've been flexing that boundary muscle, and like you said, being able to have those moments in evening where we tell our clients there are emergencies that do happen in real estate. We know the time frame for pieces that need to happen for the contract to go through. So if there is an emergency, we'll definitely pick up that phone call at 9 o'clock when you call. But other than that, we're going to be in bed sleeping.
Well, Brene Brown has my favorite quote. It's boundaries are the point at which you can love the other person and yourself. And so it's interesting because like I guarantee you're saying, hey, other people give us more of a benefit of the doubt because we have a kid, but I also have to believe you all are that much stronger about the boundaries because of the child too. And so it's like it's a both directions meeting in the middle.
For sure. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Like we have no problem. Like, my son has a doctor's appointment. Like, what are you going to do? Like, that's it. I can't do it Thursday at 12 because I'll be in the doctor's office. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, sorry, you don't want to work with us. Like, goodbye. I mean, I need to have that boundary.
Well, I think for me, that was the best thing that got me organized. Because like until probably right before our son was born. So we had the firm for about 3 years, and I could always work more. And Heather was working there; she could always work more. So there was no pain point that triggered a system, a checklist, delegation. Even if we had other staff, like we could always take on extra things. The minute he was born, the minute we knew we were pregnant, the minute we knew that was going to be a thing, we could not just say yes. And really, like that's why I have a business, was from realizing I could not do everything and I wasn't going to put in every moment I possibly could. That caused all of this, business foundational stuff, and then getting things done helped me figure out, I'm going to say personal, but it's really all the same thing, foundational systems. And it's life-changing. Truly. I have a life again. I mean, it's not life-changing, it's life-giving.
And I was going to ask you, so is it like, implementing ideas in specific systems from this book, or the like was there a specific widget that you implemented that, looking back on it, you're like, whoa, like that was the 80-20 principle, that was that 20 thing that gave me 80%?
Yeah. So for me, I would say my stuff is closest aligned with traction from a business standpoint, and then with getting things done on a administrative and personal standpoint. So I have an hour-long meeting with my entire team. Starting this week, it's Mondays at 8 a.m. because my son's in school. And that just gets all of us on the same page. We have everybody's KPIs get reported. We looked at what happened last week. We looked at how that impacted. We have like a 20-minute discussion for what's upcoming. What questions do we have? What are we going to do for this event? And then we rate the meeting. Then after that, I go into my meeting with my EA. And so we're looking at my calendar for the next 2 weeks, which is a huge thing of getting things done and filling in what time, this, that, the other. Sometimes I'll realize, I'm the presenting speaker for BNI. I need to do a presentation. I'm going to cover Sang for you on the 17th. Hey, I want to run through my presentation once before, we go. Let's get that on the calendar. Let's go through those things. Then I have my full work week. Then Thursday mornings, I do an end of week review. So now we look back a week from the previous Thursday. What did we miss? What were the follow-ups and takeaways? Oh, hey, I met with so-and-so. They were going to invite me to this event. I didn't see the invite. Can you follow up with them? Hey, I met with so-and-so. We were supposed to send them the digital product. Did we send it to them? Yes. Great. Wonderful. And then I have a weekly meeting after that where I ask, it has a bunch of KPIs. ChatGPT and I I'm super proud of this. We built a Python code that takes my Fitbit data for like my weight and my heart rate and my steps, and it automatically puts it on a Google sheet. And then I talk about like, how did my workouts go? How can I make them better? It has my sleep from this. What were the things that I think made the sleep good or bad? And then I ask myself 4 questions. Did I have enough time with myself, with my son, with my wife, and with my friends? And then why, and what could I do differently? And I really so intentionally do not track any KPI for that other than the questions. I don't want to sit here and say like, well, 2 hours with my son is the right KPI. I want the gut feeling for those things. And then how can I implement it? And so it's like, okay, hey, I haven't seen my friends a ton. Great. When's my next Friday that's available? Let me book a Topgolf. Let me get some people out there. Hey, let me contact our babysitter, do a date night with my wife. Hey, let's do Thursday. We did a double date. I hadn't seen some other people. So it was like, let's do that. And so I think that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure.
The most common step for all of my coaching clients after we do their time audit is for them to hire an executive assistant, somebody truly dedicating 40 hours a week to supporting them. Normally that breaks down to checking their email and managing it, going over their calendar and scheduling things, and all the random administrative tasks that we have to do as business owners, even though they're never the best use of our time. to make this as easy as possible for you to implement this and ultimately start living the life you want, we put together our EASOP. It's the way that my executive assistant actually does things for me, having been through years and years and years of training on it. We're going to sell that to you if that's of interest in the link below. Check it out now.
And then monthly we review. He talks about the someday maybe list. So then I have a monthly meeting. That Thursday meeting becomes longer at the end of the month for myself and with my team. We look at the major projects. We look at, are we on track for all of our quarterly rocks? I have a couple ideas for books I want to write that are so not a business. I have this really good idea for a zombie novel. I'm convinced. It's like a Capricorn 1 version. At some point I'll write it. It's on my someday maybe list. I've got it fleshed out a little bit. It hasn't happened yet. We go through those things once a month. And then coming into that meeting, my team says, hey, for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, you have 22 hours available for next week or next month. Okay, great. Let's finish this project over here. Let's add this project over here. And then I've got a 4-hour window. Great. We'll just leave it and see what else comes up. And so like really taking the time that he talks about on that, so I've got the someday maybe, I move it into the month, and then it's on my calendar to actually do it. And it's, Adam, it is, my life is back. It is amazing. And then, we also track after school, after work events. I want to do at least one a week. And usually I say at least, I usually only want to do one a week afterwards. So, you've got the nice event that you've got going on March 4th. That's on the calendar. We're going to do that. Then we're on spring break for the next 2 weeks. And then I've got something booked the week after that. So to get out there, see people, do different things.
Yeah.
Those things are great. It's just having, what is that? That becomes 1 hour meeting with the whole team, 30 minutes with my EA on Monday, 30 minutes on Thursday, 30 minutes with myself. So 2.5 hours a week spent planning everything else. It's amazing.
Yeah. Good. And I was going to say, you mentioned, the SANG meeting and stuff. I don't know. I'm sure you can deliver a presentation in your sleep, but feel free if it's something where just emceeing it and hosting it that first, 30 minutes is more than enough. And if you want to do a presentation, fantastic. But if something comes up and you're cool, just like doing the intro, 30 seconds, and then networking, that whatever works for you.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what presentation I want to do. So I have this whole thing called the wave referral plan. So it's, who do you want to meet? How do you approach them? How do you provide value? And how do you enjoy the journey? And so it's all like, instead of the let's all pass business cards, it's like, no, I want to try this new restaurant in town. Let me go with a potential referral source. Hey, I need to find new hobbies. Who do I want to spend time with? What do you do for fun? What are you doing? How is this? What are we involved in? And it really becomes a much more enjoyable way to generate a bunch of business. And so I think I've done it in a couple other groups in an hour. So I want to just go through it, cutting it down a little bit for the time that we have. But no, dude, I'm all in.
Okay, cool.
All right. So it was interesting to me. One of the things he talks about is breaking these things down to the next actionable step. So like a lot of times we think things are urgent. We think projects are serious, but really we're just unclear about what to do on them. What is that next step? What we can control? I don't know if you have any specific examples where you've experienced that. If not, I've got a couple I can jump in for me.
No, go for it. I usually over break down. Like I have like subheading of subheadings.
All right. So give me 1 second. My book's right here because this is the example I want to use.
You're good.
So I wrote a book. I wrote the same book twice. So this was the second edition. And so like doing the second, here we go.
Yeah.
So like doing the second edition.
I have my copy of that book around here somewhere.
Well, it was really overwhelming the first time I wrote the book because I didn't have an actual structure to it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Way to go. Good pitch. I didn't have a structure to it. Like originally I wrote the book as therapy. I was like, I hate my law firm. I'm going to journal my way into why it's so terrible. And then thankfully, like I think I wrote the first one over like 7 years, not inconsistently, and it got better. And so now it became the arc of like, it was terrible this way. These were the things I did. So when I went to go do the second edition, I got really specific. And I was like, hey, I hated writing the first book. So I need the guide rails of what we're doing. And it was like, hey, I did not talk about hiring in the book. I didn't talk about meetings in the first book. I didn't, I had 5 or 6 things that were there. And so I outlined from the original book what I was missing. And then I turned all those into newsletters, and I did a newsletter every single week on one of the sections, and then went back through when all those were done and added those to the book. And then I hated the old cover. I wish I had, it's over there. The old cover was terrible. So I had my marketing guy, I was like, hey, this is what I want for the cover. I want like a 1950s golden age of comics kind of style with the Dr. Seuss, the star-bellied Sneetches, but like for a law firm. So it's going into the machine and coming out looking different for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, you have 3 months to put this together while I'm doing it. Like last time, literally my original ghostwriter on the book did the cover the night before because the graphic designer we hired completely just bounced. So it's like a whole, like I can't lay blame for it, what it looked like, because we got it done and we otherwise would not have. And so I was like, hey, you have 3 months for it. And this is what I want. I'm sending it out into you. Send it to me for review. We had some check-ins on it. I wrote the newsletters a week at a time. We did the updates. We got that stuff done. Then I had my EA. I was like, hey, your job is to load this up on Amazon. We found out literally the cover was like 2 DPIs off or 2 pixels off or whatever. I had a buddy who runs a marketing company make the edits because Canva and Amazon were like just so far off. So it had to be in Adobe to like literally change the pixels by like 1 or 2 lines to fit it. It was just a whole thing. But like breaking it into those individual steps made it so much easier than write a book, which is what I did the first time.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed the second edition process so much more because of the breakdown. And like, so that's my thing now. And I'm not an intentional planner, which is funny because ChatGPT is like, you plan things. I was like, no, ChatGPT, I go to you to help me plan because I won't do it. And it was like, oh, that makes sense. So whenever we have these real, like David Allen talks about projects being multiple steps done within a year. I think that's too little for my team. But when there's real things, doing the book, hosting a conference, not necessarily an individual webinar, but we did a year of webinars. So we had to like come up with the 12, at least the first 6, plan them, put them on the calendar, make an SOP for it, like the big picture stuff like that. We'll pull up ChatGPT in a meeting and just say, hey, this is what we want. What do you know about what we need to do it? What do you know about what we already have? Like I did a digital product for parents that helps them like get out of the day-to-day in 6 months, understanding they'll read it during their first trimester, and flat out ChatGPT put it together in like 2 hours because I already had all the answers. It went through all of my podcasts. It went through all my other digital products. It consolidated the stuff we already have. And then I had to go in and just, go through and edit and tie it together in a way that was great. And so even just like using AI to fill in the gaps of what we have and then planning out what we actually need to work on has been really helpful. But breaking things down into the actual actionable step, like what you can actually control, is key. I think that answered your question.
That answered my question. You're just going over the one example of for you with your book on how the process changed when you had an actual plan instead of just write the book.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think makes things easier for people is so there's a thing called habit stacking. Like I know I brush my teeth twice a day. So if I'm trying to do, the 22 push-up challenge for veterans, great. Every time I brush my teeth, I'm going to drop and try to do 20 push-ups or 25, whatever it is. Like that's called habit stacking. You already do this thing, you stack it. It's the same thing for productivity. I already write a newsletter every single week. So I took the things I needed from the book and it broke down into 7, 10, 12 newsletters. I already had that process in place. I already have the monthly meetings for what am I going to work on. So we're saying, hey, we're working on the book. So I need you to give me, 6 hours next month to tie all the book stuff together. Like putting this stuff into the already existing system was so much easier. I'm running the half marathon. I had ChatGPT. I was like, hey, I'm running a half marathon in 4 months. You already know when I work out. I'm not committing to any more workouts other than I'll do longer on Fridays. That'll be my long run. what can I do? And so, instead of me running a 5K twice a week and rucking once a week, it had me start stretching out the distances to go farther and then to do speed work and whatever from there. Like it built onto my already existing system, which is so much easier than creating a new system from scratch.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, you've got the Word document with the task lists. Are you then like moving those things into your calendar? Are you scheduling time in your calendar to do them? Or are you just...
And you mean like, when do I actually like do the things on the list? Or
not necessarily when do you do, how do you make the time? Like, it's one thing to have a to-do list. It's another thing to actually have the time to do it. And so like, do you carve out specific time? Are you doing it around everything else?
So all of the above. So my natural, like my battery for hammering out tasks, like if I have to be at a computer for like, a solid chunk of time, that for me is the morning before I have my breakfast lunch at noon. Like I can focus from, let's say I wake up, like this morning I woke up at 5:30. So made my son eggs for later when he wakes up with my wife. And then I start to work, and like I could focus on that then. So we both know that is my time where I can hammer out texts and schedule texts and emails and do all that stuff. So that's when I get a lot of the office stuff done. Then after my lunch, networking, that's typically when I like to network, because meeting people and talk with people re-energizes me. So then if there is lull points in between meetings and stuff, I can come at, a CMA, or I can go do some emailing and stuff and not feel like I'm just staring at the screen for 3 hours. And I've done that before. I've tried to like push through a whole day of me just office work. And it's literally, I'm just like this looking at the email. It's or it needs to be 2 sentences long. And I'm like, I don't know what else to think. I can't write it. So it's a lot of morning work for me. And then if I get to meet people, talk with people, filling in the gaps in between there.
Well, and there's a lot of science behind that. So Dan Pink wrote a book called When. It says 75% of people are more focused in the mornings and then more creative in the afternoons. And so like that's why, if you look from my meetings list, all those are focused meetings. They're all 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in the morning. But if we're going to sit down and do a whole marketing plan and talk through, a more interesting way to do webinars, that's going to be an afternoon meeting, because statistically speaking, we'll be more creative. And so I think you've really tapped into that with the focused work in the morning. Yeah. That's great.
And what helped me out this year too. So December was it was a planned slow month for us, where, our son was getting older, so we had more time to think about things and what was going to look like going forward. And we knew that 2025 was a year, as far as us like running around, we didn't want to do again. So what I came up with, and it's been working really good so far, is that Tuesdays and Thursdays are my planned social networking time. So I have a calendar link that's only for Tuesdays and Thursdays. If someone's like, hey, Adam, let's grab a coffee. Before it used to be like, anytime, like, let me know. Now it's like, here are my days, these 2 days of the month or of the week. That's what it is. There's been no pushback. And then 2, knowing that then I can be out in a coffee shop, have a conversation with someone, get an hour and a half of work done, and then the next meeting comes in, the next one-to-one comes in. It's been phenomenal. Like putting up that boundary of Tuesdays and Thursdays for networking has been awesome for me.
You mentioned an hour and a half of work in between the meetings. Do you specifically have that buffer in the Calendly links?
No, but if it's there, I'll use it. And when I'm out at a coffee shop, I can focus way more on work and get things done faster than if I'm at home as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting. That's one of the I've got a whole SOP for my EA, and that's one of the biggest things is calendaring travel time. Because you end up like booking links are great, except if you have back-to-back meetings in 2 different places with not enough time to get there.
Yeah.
So really getting the travel into it becomes huge. And so I know like Calendly, Acuity, we use Lawmatics. Like a lot of them will allow buffer. I just didn't know if you intentionally had the buffer.
Yeah, I did. I have 30 minutes after I have it on the calendar link. I'm booked for 30 minutes after, because getting there, like, my first appointment in the morning, I'm there. But then afterwards, obviously, if I had to travel.
Gotcha. I love that. And then you all, and I've noticed this a lot more in San Antonio than I did in Orlando, is a lot of people have a specific place. Like, hey, I will meet you for coffee at this place on these days, pick your time. And so I guess it's a more common thing to just kind of post up somewhere.
Yeah. And the Black Rifle Coffee on 281 is like, I think a lot of people's go-to. And I think it was obviously like, about the coffee shop?
I've been there.
So it obviously very veterans forward. So it was like, obviously San Antonio is huge. It's military city, USA. So when it came to town, it was the only one Black Rifle in the city. So, and then veterans first, and then its location on 281 in Bitters is pretty much centrally located, or kind of easy enough to get to because it's on 281. Like, that's just like everyone's de facto default coffee shop because of the years that it was the only one in town. Now there's like 3 or 4, so now it gets confusing. But that's like the spot where a lot of people network at.
And for the record, everybody, I did break Adam's system the last time we got coffee, and did it at a different location just to make it slightly easier for me. But so be it.
And that was a thank you, because you're a sponsor. I'm like, and that's like, I'm gracious as well. I'm like, you've done me a huge service, and a thank you. Like, wherever's completely convenient for you, like, I'll meet you there for sure.
Much appreciated. No, I meant the Starbucks, not the barbecue place.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, but that's close to. I was probably a Black Rifle before there.
Right. Well, everything's for the 7th largest city in the country. Everything's 15 minutes or less from everything else.
Yeah.
So the other, I'm curious, because he talks about the things that are not actionable. And so to me, things are not actionable for 2 reasons. Either 1, you've given somebody else the task to do and you're waiting on their responses, or 2, it's a timing thing. Like, hey, I'm not going to come up with my spring break 2027 trip because of the timing of it. Do you have a system for either of those things when you're waiting on from somebody else, or when you need something to come back to you at a later date for some reason?
Just on my generic to-do list I used to
have
on
the list. Okay.
Yep.
So we have so I realized the waiting on other people was 99% of the time an email. Like, email is a task list you don't control. And the minute I internalized that, the minute I completely changed my view of email, and it was for the better. So like, we have a tag on the emails waiting on others when we have sent it out to somebody else. Hey, I'm waiting on my accountant to tell me what they're waiting on from us. I'm waiting on my bookkeeper to send me the 2020 January 2026 stuff. Hey, I'm waiting on whatever it is. And so now that tag is its own folder in Gmail. And so every Tuesday and Friday, my EA goes through and responds to all those emails. Hey, waiting on this, you waiting on us, whatever, unless the person gave us a deadline. If they said, oh, hey, give me a week, then we'll hold off on it for a week.
Yeah.
And that's been it has been life-changing. It amazes me how often the second time you email somebody the same thing, you get an answer so much faster.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to do it we don't do it in a jerky way. If I email you on Monday, we're not following up on Tuesday, but we'll follow up on Friday. Like, I'm giving you a 3 to 4 day window between the emails.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, the responses that we get from people now a lot faster, because they know we're going to follow up.
So you'll, like, as an example, so you say that, and I said about, I had subheadings of subheadings. So with the sponsors for the networking event, like, for Mason, the health insurance guy, I have so I have my for a cause, subheading sponsors, subheading Mason, subheading, it was like, emailed him about blah, blah, blah. And then underneath that was text him about blah, blah, blah. And now it's scheduled. So we just put on the calendar, on Thursday to go have coffee at 10 a.m. So I do have I have the chains of all the things down the subheadings, but yeah, I don't have anything like, I love the tag idea to just be like color coded or whatever, to say like waiting on, I did my job.
Yeah.
Waiting on.
Well, so I do, so I have 5 tags for my emails. It's Jordan to respond. So this is my executive assistant went through it and realized it needs to be me. I have Jordan to read. So it's like the articles I want to read. It's newsletters I sign up for. I have EA responded to. So when she replies to an email, she tags it there. I go through once a week and look at it to make sure it's never on her. It's always like, I will have a text message conversation. Someone will send us an email. I didn't give her the info from the text, so I'll jump in with that, waiting on others. And then I have my filing cabinet, so my storage place. And basically every single email is going to end up either being deleted, snoozed, or put in one of those 5 spots. And so like we try to only touch emails at most twice, one being the first read and then 2 being resolving it. Either those are at the same time or it's scheduled for when it's going to happen. Hey, Jordan's going on this podcast. They need, 30 questions and a logo. She'll schedule that for later in the day to do it. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's great. And then the flip side of that is like that it's not ripe. This situation is not ripe. And so he talks about the 43 folders. It's January through December, and then it's 1 through 32, and you just pull up the next folder. Again, this is the digital age. So I've got an annual dates calendar. So I have like when my insurance renews on it. I have meeting with my financial advisor at least once a year. I have meeting with my estate planning attorney once a year. I have, 1099s are due, taxes are due, business taxes, personal taxes, all those recurring dates. And then in our monthly meeting, we'll look at 3 months. So we look at the previous month, this month, and next month to make sure we're doing all of those things. So this way I know, like, I'm trying to think of what else. The Laughlin Air Force Base air show is on there. I forgot when it's scheduled for, but I think I have it in like February to go pull when the date is. And maybe it's in May, June.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
It is Laughlin.
Laughlin. What did I say? Laughlin?
You said Laughlin.
Sorry, Laughlin.
Yeah, you're good. No, you're good. No worries.
But this way I know, like, hey, and Pullman Market did a barbecue fest, and I found out about it the week of, and they were long sold out. So then I was like, all right, I went on the annual dates calendar for 4 months before. So 8 months later, was like, look up see if they do the barbecue event again, get tickets timely, those kind of things. So this way, like, it's not in my brain, but I know we'll check this. We'll check this list once a month. It will come back up at the month that it's needed, at the date that it's needed. I'll put birthday reminders on my calendar for people, those kind of things. So I'm never worried about remembering things. I know I can just like live in the moment.
Yeah. And you say that, like, and hearing your systems, and then the follow-up to, like, okay, the monthly meeting doesn't just look at the month, it's the future and the past too. Because I think with a lot of business owners, we've gotten bit in the ass so many times by having something fall through the cracks, right? Like, we forgot like the potential is there for growth. Like, I emailed that client, but then I didn't have a system to check back up on the email, and it got lost, in the sauce. And now I'm like, crap, what do I do now? A month later I see it and it's like, well, it's already listed and it's sold, and thanks, good job, Adam. You missed that email. And I think enough of us get hit so many times. You're like, all right, systems need to come in place.
If your idea of vacation means checking emails from a chair in a different state, you don't have a business. You have a terrible job. Most of the time, it's because we have no vision and we're doing everything. I coach firm owners out of the day-to-day and into more of a CEO type role. Ultimately, they end up doing less in the business, doing more for having a great life, and then we tie that back into a way that actually grows their business. When you're ready to make that switch, click the link below to book a call with me, and let's see how we can work together to help you achieve the life you've always dreamed of.
Well, and look, I think every business owner should have an assistant. If they're part-time, if they're full-time, if they're local, if they're near shore, if they're offshore, if they're virtual, whatever. Because like the amount of money, them catching one thing is going to cover multiple months of salary. And so basically, like, she starts an hour before I come to work, and Tuesday through Friday, she spends 30 minutes going back through yesterday's emails and then making sure they're all tagged. So she gets to double check her work. She gets to check my work. Mondays, she spends an hour going through, because she'll have, not that I send that many emails on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but if I do, they're there. And by having those, it's a second check that things don't fall through the cracks. And then Tuesdays and Fridays, she's also following up. And then Monday, she's prepping for our meeting in 30 minutes. Like, it amazes me showing up to organization. I guess at the end of the day, he talks about martial arts. I think about it like Buddhism, like mindfulness. Like, there's so much joy in living in the moment. Getting things done helps me work-wise live in the moment. When in doubt, I can go to my calendar, and then everything I need for events is on my calendar. If I am writing a newsletter, it has the link to my document for the newsletter. It has a link to the previous newsletter, so I can do any like callbacks and references, and it's always there. And if I'm, writing the book draft is on my calendar. I don't have to go find something else. If I'm uploading QR codes to it, those are attached to the calendar event. Like everything I need is right there, so I can just go.
Yeah.
And it's fun's probably not the right word, but it's a lot more fun than, oh my God, what do I have to do? And how did I save that? And where was that? Oh yeah, there was that email I'm supposed to respond. What did that email look like? Like it's so much cleaner.
Yeah. And you said, the mindfulness, it's probably, it feels freeing.
Oh yeah. Well, and I bought the Spurs tickets. We're going to be in Utah. I was so mad at myself because I'm like, I don't make mistakes like that. But like, I'm sure for most people, that's a common thing. Like, oh, I got double booked. If I get double booked, something went horribly wrong. And I'm like, this will never happen again. And so actually, I got double booked before this event because of, one of my old booking links didn't read the luau calendar. And thankfully, I was like, hey, come join us. He did not, but it was an easy reschedule. But I was like, no, Jordan does not get double booked. What's wrong? What happened? Why did this happen? This wasn't on the calendar? Okay, great. We're changing how breaks get calendared. It's amazing. And obviously it's anal, but obviously it's the reward for being organized. If you have no organization, anything's great. At the level that I'm at, it's like this one tweak, this going from 95% to 99% on this is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Cool. Any final questions?
No, not that I can think of. I will say I enjoyed the conversation more than the book. However, the system, honestly, whatever halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, whatever it was, like seeing that repetition of that diagram of the stuff with the arrows and the to-dos, yes and no's, something clicked. And I'm, staring at my long ass nothing but to-do list. And I'm like, what would happen? And like, I started getting energized. So for that alone, thank you for recommending this, and thank David Allen for creating it, because like that alone, I think, has freed up more of my mental energy and space.
Nice.
Looking at what I have created on my end.
Well, have you ever looked at the Eisenhower Matrix? All right, hold on. Let me see. So if you don't want to read the entire book, but you want something that is very close to it, is this going to give me the important and no? Here we go. This is good enough. It's a diagram. The diagram looks like this without the hand. I actually think this one's wrong because urgent and important should be here. So I think this is right. So in essence, it's a question, is this important and is it urgent? If it is urgent and it's important, I'm just going to do it. Top left, do it immediately, do it now. If it's important but not urgent, it's going to be quadrant 2, and that's going to be defer. So we're going to defer it until the time. If it's not important but urgent, we're going to delegate it. That's the bottom 3. And then not important, not urgent, we're going to delete it or drop it. And so it's do, defer, delegate, and drop. Apparently, Dwight D. Eisenhower, maybe that's what the D stood for, these 4 things, did this for everything. Like did it as a general, did it as president, just went through the list. And so like if you take your task and it's like, do I just do it? Do I just defer it? Do I just delegate it? Do I just drop it? It will help you because, I'm a big 80-20 fan as well. 80% of things only give us 20% of value. 20% of things give us 80% of value. And I love this concept of just knock it out, schedule it to be done. If you're not the best person to do it, have somebody else do it. So if you want a much quicker way to start with this than an entire great book, I'd start with the Eisenhower Matrix. But if you can, a little bit goes a long way of getting things done. And then you just build on top of it every time you go back through it, every time you see an issue in the system, every time, you go through anything. It's just, it's wild to me. None of this is set it and forget it. It's set it and follow it and tweak it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Anything else?
No, I appreciate the conversation, sir.
Next week, joining me, one of the coolest people in the legal space, Robert Hanna. Rob runs a amazing podcast called Legally Speaking, in which he talks to some of the greatest people in the legal industry. And from there, he's internalized a ton of that, as well as being a phenomenal recruiter and just a great guy. So super excited for us to break down some amazing insights that he will have for you in next week's episode of the Lei'd Back Life podcast. We'll see you then.